Times were tough, so I sold my soul. And I don't think I'll ever regain control. Devil looked me in the eye, now I look the other way. What else could I do? I just stared at the doorway, knew I'd rather be drunk with you.
Hey Internet, Dracofunk here, and welcome back to the Reusable Space Program, Season 3, Episode 15. And we are back at Enterprise Station, and the Canterbury fuel tanker is going to try and get rid of some of this extra oxidizer, because we are short just a little bit over at the truck stop. So we are going to transfer as much of that as we can and then send the tanker back to the Mun so it can do another fuel run. And mainly for the Enterprise Station, they need liquid fuel. They're pretty full on Oxidizer, which is why I have way too much. And this is something that is different, I've noticed, since we've started this, is we need more liquid fuel than Oxidizer. And the Canterbury itself is kind of very similar to the space trucks. It's a very similar build. And in reality, it is one of the space trucks. It's just constructed a little different. So it has rendezvoused with the truck stop, and I just need to come in and do the docking. And I'm not quite close enough to even select the docking port right now. I think I got it. And I'm using time warp. This takes way longer than it seems. This footage is sped up 4 times. Alright, this is actual real time. I wanted to get a in-cockpit view of the docking and just make sure everything lines up. There we go. Now just transfer everything over, and I actually do the fuel transfers at like 8 times because it's kind of boring. Get all the... Let's transfer as much fuel as we can to all the craft that need it. And let's send the tanker back to the Mun. I kind of feel bad. Like, the Canterbury was a very early ship before I even started the space truck, and it's like almost a space truck. And I really tried to have it symmetrical so it flies stable, and it flies pretty stable, but it's not perfect. If I didn't have SAS on, where the reaction wheels were constantly countering the torque from the engines, it wouldn't fly exactly straight, but it's close enough. It does have several extra docking ports that the space trucks don't have. And there we are, we have our Mun encounter. And I'm not going to go ahead and I'm not going to go all the way to the Mun station yet. Is that, I can't remember, is the Mun station Challenger or Columbia? I think it's Columbia station. And I'm circularizing. Again, I'm not going to go all the way for an encounter at the station. I'll do that later. But here we are, we're in orbit of the Mun, and now it's time to get back to the tanker's kind of old business, and now it's time to take care of some new business. And the new business is Space Truck 9, which has been to Minmus Station and filling up the fuel tanks. Now, last time we were here, I had it almost filled up. I actually ended up topping off using some of the fuel reserves from the SUV craft that's docked to the station, just so I could do a complete fuel run and get as much fuel as I can back to the space truck stop. And just trying to get as nice of an encounter as I possibly can. Hopefully as efficient as I can. Now, this will be a regular fuel run. It may not always be run by the same space truck. But this is going to be an ongoing mission where one of the space trucks brings 2 fuel tanks full of liquid fuel from Minmus Station back to the truck stop, and that's how we're going to keep the space trucks running. And there's a part of me that always wants to have all the space stations full of fuel, but there's another part of me that realizes that that's not really realistic, and that's not how things would work in the real world. There would be constant fillings of fuel tanks from the fuel reserves, and then filling the fuel reserves from the space stations, and like Minmus and Mun are going to constantly be filling the tanks there to send back to Kerbal orbit. And it's just a cycle that is just going to continuously be going, because even if I get the tanks full, I'm going to have to then take some of that fuel to refill whatever space truck just delivered all the fuel there. Anyway, we are coming back to Kerbal orbit, and our planes, because the Minmus's orbit is a little bit, what's the word? It's not on the same plane. It's not an equatorial orbit around Kerbal. Inclination. It's very inclined. That's the word I'm looking for. But my first step is to circularize around Kerbal. I mean, well, we're already circularized. It's just I need to bring the apoapsis down because it's way, way high right now. And then once I get the apoapsis down, I can fix the inclination and then get a rendezvous. It would probably make more sense, honestly, to do this in a couple steps, it would be a little bit more efficient and I could save a little bit of fuel. And I probably should have done that, especially when making a fuel run. I could have saved probably a couple hundred units of fuel by doing it that way. But that is not something I did. It is... What is that? It is more efficient to step down your orbits over several orbits as opposed to trying to do it all at once. That's the using the Oberth effect. And as you can see, I'm very inclined. And right now, I'm also very confused because I cannot find the space truck stop. And I don't know if you've noticed this in between the first segment with this Canterbury and now. I've actually upgraded to a newer version of Kerbal Space Program. I've been putting it off for a long time. I think I was on version 1.12.1 and I've upgraded to 1.12.2. And I thought maybe in the upgrade I lost the space station. And in reality, the space station was just named Tinker B Canterbury. And that's why I couldn't find it. And I was so relieved once I found it that I got the station back and then I misspelled the name, and I still haven't fixed that. But there's the space truck stop. It is still there. It just had the wrong name and wasn't labeled as a space station anymore. But anyway, it's still there, and now I'm done freaking out that something horrible happened to the game. And the way I found it out was actually I went back to the old version of the game and still couldn't find it, and then I was very confused. And then I realized that there was a Canterbury in orbit of Kerbal and one in orbit of the Mun. And I'm like, oh no, it somehow cloned the tanker and lost the station. And then I realized that when I went to go fly the Canterbury that's in orbit of Kerbal, it's the space truck stop. But that's okay. Everything is fine now, and I am getting a rendezvous, and it is taking up a lot of delta V to fix the inclination, but that's to be expected, and there's really no better way to do that. It's just gonna be that way. But that's okay. In doing the upgrade of the game version, I have went ahead and added a mod. I added the environmental visual enhancements. So there are now clouds on Kerbal, and that's one of the things I've kind of been wanting to do, was to upgrade the visuals. I'm on a new computer that can do a little bit more graphics, so I figured that's something I do. Actually, I've been on a computer that can handle the graphics for a while. I just haven't got around to doing that. When I started this series, I was on my gaming laptop, and then I switched it over to my desktop. And then a couple months ago, I received a computer upgrade thanks to Scrodric. Big shout out to Scrodric. Scrodric is awesome in every way imaginable, and everybody needs to know that. Alright, so we are fixed the orbital plane. We are doing a Hohmann transfer. And we are getting our encounter and matching velocities and all that great stuff. And I'm going to be very careful that I don't accidentally crash into the station, which it doesn't appear that I am. There are still a couple things I have to fix in the settings, because when I upgraded to a newer version, some of my settings are not quite the same. And I just need to go about fixing that. And this part of this episode has already taken longer than I had planned. I just have to get all the docking completed, and I'm using mostly monopropellant now because I want to save the rest of the fuel that I have. So this holds, when I left Minma Station, I had 12,800 units of liquid fuel, and I'm down to 7,600. Now, some of that needs to go back into this space truck, because if the space truck doesn't leave this, if the space truck leaves the truck stop without fuel, it's missed its purpose. And if I thought about disabling the crossfeed, but then actually I might not have enough fuel to haul all the fuel back. And in reality, it wouldn't matter anyway, because I still have to fill up the space truck when it gets to the truck stop anyway. So it really doesn't save any fuel, and it just actually makes things a little more difficult. And even though it maybe not be 100% realistic to be pulling fuel from the tanks that we're hauling, it's just easier. And again, it doesn't really change much. And there we are, we're docked. And the first thing I'm going to do actually is fill the tanks of the space truck. And that leaves still 2,000. Get all the fuel tanks transferred over, monopropellant, and that's that. The truck stop is not full of fuel, but that's okay, and that's to be expected. And see, this episode was supposed to be about space tourism, and we haven't really done any space tourism in this episode. So we need to do, I just want to do one thing, and let's go ahead. We are going to launch a new spacecraft into orbit, and that's about all we're going to have time to do for today. And you can see the clouds thanks to environmental visual enhancements, some city lights, and there's a quick preview of the spacecraft inside of the fairing, and there it is. This is the first cruise ship we're building, and I realized that I forgot to disable the cross feed, so it's been pulling fuel from the space cruise ship, and I need to get it back as quickly as I can before I reach Apoapsis. That's a little bit annoyed at myself for that. And I didn't get quite all the fuel tanks, and now I'm not sure which ones I missed. And they're coming up really, 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 really quick. Okay, I got all the fuel tanks loaded with basically 10 seconds to go. And it's a little wobbly, but we're good. We have a stable orbit, and there is the next cruise ship, and here is the booster that I was going to land until I realized I launched the version before I put parachutes on it. So I will have to send up the deorbiter to take care of that, and I need to do a whole episode just on landing boosters. But for now, if you haven't done so, like and subscribe this video. And hey, a big shout out to all our new subscribers. And thanks for watching. Do all the YouTube stuff, smash the bell, fly safe, and all that. See you next time.